So, hello and welcome to this latest episode of Interesting Lives of Ordinary People. And my guest today is Daniella Blechner. Daniella is the founder of Conscious Dreams Publishing. She has helped more than 300 books come to life through her business, and she has mentored more than 1,000 authors. And I love the fact that the age range is from 7 years to 84. I love this. Welcome, Daniela. It's good to see you.
Hello, thank you so much for letting me be on your show today. Very excited to dive in.
So, what I want to begin with, first of all, is to ask you. I mean, you've been doing this for nearly a decade now. What was it that made you choose this path? Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. And I think something needs to really, um, you need to have a passion to do something like this. So, I think I'm just curious to know, was there a particular turning point in your life that made you take this particular route of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it wasn't something I sort of planned to do. It all kind of happened organically because of a passion that I have for writing. I mean, if you think about entrepreneurship, when I look back on my childhood, it's always something that I'd loved doing, in terms of like selling my friends dinner tickets at school. Uh, cut that bit out.
No, it's good. It tells us that you had a flair for business
Kind of
early on.
had a bit of a flair for business from, when I went to school, selling my friends dinner tickets at a slightly increased price. I think my dad used to sell old toasters and old things that could be used in the kitchen when he was at uni during his uni days. But I mean, going back to Conscious Dreams Publishing, my love really is for writing, and through my own journey of realizing how difficult it is to be published traditionally, I researched the whole self-publishing process for me to publish my own book. But it organically, after I had published my book, which did quite well, I was getting women mainly asking me, can you help me publish this? Can you help me write this? Can you help me, connect me to a designer? And I was connecting them to all these different people who I'd used in my journey or come across in my journey. And then they started doing really well. And I realized actually this should be, a business. I come from a teaching background, so I was teaching at the time. I have a mentoring background and I love literature. So why not use my skills and expertise to help people to publish their books in a way that they will, can feel proud of, share their message, share their story, but do it in a way where they have complete ownership and authority over their books. Because there are a lot of self-publishing companies out there that are just charging ridiculous amounts, ripping people off. I was speaking to people who didn't know what their royalties were, how many books they'd sold. So in essence, I guess I set up the kind of company that I would have loved to have had when I published my first book, and it's just grown and grown since there, really.
Yes. And that's so true. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Because obviously the traditional publishers probably only want to go with people that they know for sure will be recognized and whose books will sell. So when you published your very first book, first of all, what can you remind us what the name of that book is?
So my first book is called Mr. Wrong. I can grab a copy for you if you want.
Yes, please do. Yes. Mr. Wrong. I like that.
So my first book was called Mr. Wrong. I wrote this well, I published it in 2014, so that's 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's a relationship book, but it's also a personal development book. It's a collection of stories written by women mainly who've encountered this infamous Mr. Wrong character. But
Yeah.
more than that, it's a space to self-discover, to look at our belief systems, about ourselves, relationships, men, looking at our childhood. There's a space to do reflections. There's stories for men, success stories in there as well.
Yeah.
So through publishing that book, because I had so many amazing, powerful stories from women as well, funny stories, but also some serious stories of overcoming some really toxic behaviors and relationships. By hook or by crook, I had to get it out there, which is why I was so passionate about doing this myself if I wasn't able to go the whole agent and traditional publishing route, which is really tough.
And so did you self-publish that first book? And
Yeah, so I set up Conscious Dreams Publishing and published through that imprint. Yeah, so
you
self-published.
I see. So you set up your business really to help yourself.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
and then you realize, actually, wait, I could do this for others too, because there's so many people who have the same challenge.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And the best business ideas are born from a need that you have experienced yourself, which you then realize, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
All these other people that do it too. That's brilliant. And we are going to come back to it in a minute. But I'd love to know so you said you were teaching before you became a published
Yeah.
author. Tell us a little bit about that. What was that like?
So I started teaching in 2009, which is a while ago now. Teaching secondary school, English, touch of media, touch of drama. I mean, it's always dramatic in the classroom. No, mainly English I teach. Absolutely love it. You know, love working with young people, all different schools, different settings, mainly inner London schools, and then later on SEN schools, children with special educational needs, alternative provision. So a lot of different schools. I do one-to-one mentoring. Once you're in teaching, you never leave. So I still call myself a teacher. You know, I still do one-to-one sessions online. And then that's really it. But I've evolved into coming into schools, you know, in a different way, coming in as a workshop facilitator. I do storytelling workshops in schools. I do author talks in schools. So I've never really left the schools, I guess.
And that's such an important point, because often people feel like to be a teacher, you have to be a teacher, like you were, going, every day and go into a classroom and deal with all the paperwork and bureaucracy. But you're right. I mean, if you love teaching, there's so many different ways in which you can continue to
100.
be that force for good in young people's lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just on that, so your first book came out in 2014.
Yeah.
Did you immediately decide that Conscious Streams Publishing now could be a business, or were you straddling, teaching while also trying to build your business?
Well, I left teaching full time in 2013. I've only actually just left teaching completely last year and gone in my business full time. So I left teaching 2013 and I, you know, dipped in, did supply teaching. People need to understand teaching. It's not a 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock job. It's continuous. The holidays are not holidays. You're constantly working. You're constantly marking. The pressure and the stress is unbelievable. So it was a lot, and it's difficult to really follow your passions at the same time as being so embroiled in that job. So the supply teaching really helped me to give me that time, or afforded me that time to really also focus on the things that I love to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I hadn't arranged to set this up as a business. I just arranged to pull out of teaching so I wasn't working as strenuously in that capacity, so I could focus on my own things as well. But in terms of the business, all of that happened organically around 2015, 2016. I would say officially I started Conscious Dreams Publishing, but that was because of a need, because I started to have so many people asking me, you know, for help and, you know, can I connect them here? Can I do this? Can I, you know, send them an editor? Can I show them how to publish? And I think the business ran me. The business showed me that yes, you're not, you got to find a way to be able to divide your time between the two and eventually go full time. So it
Yeah.
wasn't that I left teaching in order to set up a business. It was I left teaching just to give myself more time, and then this kind of took a life of its own, I think, really.
Yeah. Yes. And it can be all consuming, isn't it, running your own business as well. So you can't really do justice to two all-consuming careers.
None.
And so becoming a sort of one-stop shop for all the things that people are coming to you for in terms of, asking for recommendations or advice or stuff. So I'm just curious to know, writing was your main passion, and of course you had a flair for business from being at a young age. How easy or difficult is it to actually have a business that can stand on its own 2 feet? I know it's not, it sounds very easy, but I know how hard it must have been for you. So can you give us some stories about what it was like in the early days? What were the sort of challenges that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are?
I think the early days, gosh, when I look back on it, it's very tough. The amount of work that I was doing, and what I was kind of getting back didn't really work out. So I was sort of starting off paying for everything out of my pocket. I did eventually get a business startup loan, which was fantastic. So some of the biggest challenges really were being able to work out my time, the money, the team, the jobs, the delegation, all of that. So, like I said, this took off really, really quickly. So I'd start with one client, and because something was easy for me, it's hard to know the value of what it is that you're doing. Because remember,
Mm.
initially I started off doing this, helping people. Um, and somebody who hasn't done, haven't done a big business studies course, I was literally learning on my feet. So when I look at what I was charging then and what I'm charging now, it's completely different. And it
Yeah.
was me by myself on my laptop, no office, at home after working 5 days a week in, I think I was supplying at this point, but then I'd come home and I'd be working on the book and everything else. I mean, it was all consuming. So some of the biggest things were, I think, number one, know my worth and know the value and be able to really work out what the prices of things are. Um, Two is to figure out how many clients you can have at a time and really work on a schedule. And three, I think the biggest thing is just have a really trusted team. Like I have an amazing team of, I think, up to 25 people now, from all over the world. Most of them, I'd say about 80% of them started with me in 2016. They've had constant work. I've got typesetters in Ukraine. I've got editors in the USA, Canada, England. I had a VA in Kenya. I've got a wonderful VA in the Philippines. We're a really tight team. But in the beginning, it's being able to make sure you've got the right team with you, people who have the same values as you, or your business. So it's knowing what your business values are, first of all. So, I mean, imagine there's so much to kind of establish at the beginning. And I was establishing these things as I was going along, creating systems in the business. So I was doing all the invoices myself, typing everything out, change, you know what I mean? And there's somebody called Seidel, she's absolutely fantastic on it. Is her company. She introduced to me systems like Dubsado, all of these things that just make your business run seamlessly and
Mm.
flawlessly, so you're not pouring so much of yourself needlessly into all these things. And again, learning how to outsource, admin tasks or the tasks that aren't necessarily your strength or the tasks that you don't really want to do,
Yeah.
because you need to be able to focus on, everything else, like the wider plans of the business. So it's working all of those things out, I think, were probably the most challenging in the first few years.
Yes. Yes. And in that time, did you have any time or energy to do any writing for yourself or?
Good question. Do I now? No. No, that's something I'm working on, is just really be able to carve out time and protect that time. That's something I would say to entrepreneurs. um Carve out time to do what you love. Remember why you set this up, why you set your business up. What was that passion? So my passion behind setting this up was because I love writing. That was my joy. And I love helping other people write and achieve their dreams. That gives me a really good sense of purpose, and a real buzz.
Yeah.
But remember your own dreams as well. So I do still have my middle grade sci-fi, not sci-fi, middle grade fantasy novel that I started in 2007, or probably longer than that, that I'm on my 13th draft of. And I had said that this year, next year, is going to be the year that I'm really going to be pushing that and getting that out. But just protect that time. So thanks for reminding me that.
Yes, I know what you mean, because it requires a different kind of attention, doesn't it? You need to really step away from everything else and
Yeah.
just focus on that. And so you talk about sort of, people who are passionate and they want to write. And I think from my own experience is that sometimes, and in this day and age, there's different ways in which you can write and be read. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a book. So do you kind of have a sense of when is the right time to actually write a book, and when might it be better to simply maybe write a blog or create some other ways to be read, which doesn't involve all the different steps of actually getting a book out?
Rigmarole.
Yeah.
I think the person needs to think about what is their purpose. for writing said piece, whether it's a blog, whether it's a video. I mean, you can write the script to a video, and that's, it's still sending a message in a different form. In essence, what I'm saying is, decide on your format. What is the purpose of you having a book? Why does it need to be a book as
Yeah.
opposed to like an online course or a visual piece or a blog or an ebook? For me, the joy of having a book and writing a book is that someone has something physical and tangible in their hands
Yeah.
that they can read. If you're sharing your expertise is in that book. You can have your services listed in that book. The book is timeless. It's on someone's shelf. I've got books on my shelf that have been there for years, decades even. I can pick one off and you know read all over again. And that's what a book really does. It's about creating that experience. But yeah, if you feel it needs to be a blog or something else, then go ahead and do use a different format and come back to the idea of a book when you're ready.
Yes. And is part of your mentoring that initial, helping somebody understand what is the right format for them to be writing as well?
Yeah, so we do offer mentoring services for writers who are right at the beginning stages. And sometimes they might submit something and they realize, no, actually, this is a blog, or it could be a lead magnet for, sharing 10 tips to, I don't know, growing your business. Because what they've got isn't enough there to be a book, but it's enough there to you know, get leads into your
Yeah.
nurture sequence, into your funnel. I hate using into your funnel, but into your world.
Yes.
And then you can expand these 10 points into a book once you've fleshed it out and you've got the case studies, you've got the information and everything else that you need. So yeah, sometimes it's not always a book.
And I think from some of the things you're talking about, those are kind of more non-fiction books, aren't they? They're
Yeah.
books that are maybe related to the business that you have or a service that you have to offer. Do you have many people who come to you who want to just write fiction? And talk us through how is that different?
We do. We have a few authors actually who are writing fiction. A lot of authors share their personal story through fiction, which is a
Yeah.
great way to, because it's quite vulnerable sharing your personal story, isn't it? And exposing, and you don't know how people are going to react. Sometimes you want to protect people, but you still want to share your story and share your message and do it in a different way. So often our fiction books are done in this way.
Mm.
We have had a few sci-fi novels. We have had a few romance novels. So we have different editors whose expertise, matches different genres. So we've got a really good fiction editor. What I always suggest is best is because it's impossible to read the whole manuscript and give like succinct feedback and be able to even price it sometimes,
Yeah.
is to have a developmental edit, which is to have one of our editors read the whole thing and give a 2 to 4 page report talking about the structure, does the pace work, the plot, the characters, the language, the tone, all of these things need to be looked at, and it's impossible to do that on a quick submission. We'd read the first 3 chapters and maybe the end to get a sense of it. But fiction, fiction does require a lot more. It's a different skill, a lot more attention to detail, and a lot more elements to think about, I think, for fiction.
Yes, yes. And so your preferred client would be someone who's writing nonfiction?
No, both. We do both, but I mean, in terms of time, non-fiction is quicker. So I
Yes.
mean, the books I like really are personal stories, memoirs. Yes, non-fiction books. In that sense, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who share their expertise. But I've got a real heart for children's books. I do love children's books. So we've got picture books,
Yeah.
middle grade books are good, and yes, we do get the odd fiction book as well, but that's something that requires more, most of the time when we've worked with authors, more assistance on the writing side of it in terms of developing the story.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And I want to talk a little bit about your own sort of writing journey. And we all have a different I suppose a different way in which we write and the different things that sort of want to emerge from us when we write. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal sort of writing style and how what inspires you to write?
Gosh. Uh, I've always written. I can't even remember when I didn't write. Started off with poetry, age 4, the cat sat on the mat kind of thing. I've still got one of the books that I wrote. I think it was Lucille in her adventure with the bear or something. A little pop-up book I wrote for one of the young girls I mentored. I mean, I was 11 at the time with it was a 4-year-old. You know, when you buddy up in school, we had that kind of
Yeah.
buddy system. So I had a 4-year-old girl that I mentored.
Oh,
Not quite sure I've still got the book and she
ah,
hasn't, but I have. Um, I write all different genres, weirdly enough, although I do want to move more into children's. Mr. Wrong was a book that was born almost by accident, through my own personal experience, and people were saying, Dan, you've just got to write a book about this.
mm,
So I do love nonfiction. I love, writing things from my heart. I write very much from my heart. Poetry as well. So between the ages of 17 and 19, poetry is something that really was a big part of my life, and journaling.
mm,
It was a way for me to process emotions, a way for me to process the world, a way for me to really express myself. And so that's something I really hold very dear.
mm,
Um, People say that my writing style is quite humorous, quite poetic as well. Um, from the children's book perspective, I like to write things that have a lot of adventure, but also can be read within different layers, messages, if you look for them within the writing, and writing, or books, stories that make you really think about the
mm.
deeper message.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And you said you wrote Mr. Wrong. Now, I hope you don't mind me sharing that you recently got married.
I
So,
did.
so you found your Mr.
I
Right.
did find my Mr. Right, yeah.
And so what did you do right in these 10
Right.
years or so
Ah,
between sort of, having that experience that led to that book and now finding the
yeah.
person you've
I think
married?
I just gave up, really. I stopped thinking, I stopped worrying, I stopped stressing, and I had given up. And my husband also said he'd given up too. But I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I think
Mm,
really it was everything's experience. And I think if we can identify patterns, my brain is kind of wired for patterns, so I notice patterns a lot. So if I notice a pattern in my life and I don't like the pattern, I try and look for how I can unpick and change it.
mm,
So a lot of self-development work, I think. I've had a lot of time alone, so over lockdown, it was really good. It was really, really tough, actually.
mm,
Really tough year. I lost my dad as well. I think that was a big turning point for me.
mm,
Um, it's almost like I saw my life through my dad's eyes, and what he would say if he knew some of the things I had gone through or accepted or allowed, and it gave myself a greater sense of no, I've got I've got to do better, and I deserve better,
mm,
and I think through all the experiences I've had, I've used them as learning experiences to be able to know what I deserve and to also work on myself, you know. Because no one's perfect, being a better person, better communicate. What does it take to have a good communication with somebody? What does it take to truly love and nurture yourself? How do you want to be loved?
mm,
So I think that's how I lockdown, I really got to know myself. Um, and then you appreciate it. You appreciate when you do find true love, of friendship and companionship, someone who's kind and supportive. You
mm,
just appreciate it so much more. And I think that gratitude is something that plays a big role. We met because I met him. I was sent to the wrong room for teaching. I never meet anyone at work because I'm in and out. Like I said, I've given up. I'd given up by that time. It was just out of lockdown, so people still weren't really going out. Um, so I was sent to the wrong room at the right time. And sometimes, I believe there's love there for everybody, and sometimes it is in the wrong room and at the right time.
So your
If
husband
that
is
helps.
also is he also a teacher? Is he in the
Yes, yes,
Oh,
science.
okay, okay. I see. And I love what you said, and I would almost say it's letting go rather than necessarily giving up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of letting go, and from what you describe is learning to love yourself. Because
Hmm.
I often feel that, we sort of on a subconscious level we're giving other people signals of how we want to be loved in the
Hmm.
way we treat ourselves. And so if we
Mm.
don't treat ourselves well, we're almost saying to other people, it's okay for you to also treat me that way.
Yeah.
So
But I also, as well, I think a sense of you can't change people. You can
yes.
only change yourself. I think that's important as well.
Yes. And I think lockdown was definitely a very um powerful, enforced period of self-reflection for a lot of us, wasn't it? Because, well, there wasn't that much else you could do. You
Yeah.
had to be your own company. Thank you for sharing. And has having somebody now by your side and, in a supportive, loving relationship, how's that changed the way you actually see your business? Because obviously before when you were on your own, you had to do everything, including the
Yeah.
stuff you did for yourself and your house and things. And now you have somebody there with you. I just wondered whether that had in any way changed how you are able to put yourself into your business.
Right. So I think it's definitely more of a team. In his name's Neville, Neville's wedding speech, he did mention how he noticed that sometimes I can go a whole day without eating. I can get so immersed in my work. So I can get up really early, and I'll be work, 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 work. And then he'll come home at about 5, 6, and I realize, oh, I haven't eaten. So he's a fantastic cook.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
it's just reminding, just having somebody to remind me to eat. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but having somebody who has your best interests at heart,
Yes.
um, and also somebody to care for. When
Yeah.
you're by yourself, it's easier to be like, oh yeah, I don't need to do this, or don't, you know what I mean? But when you're with somebody, you have a unit, and you have to eat. I don't
Yeah.
know if that really describes it. I don't know if I can answer that question in the
No,
way that
I understand what you mean.
you
It's
cut
like
it
someone
out.
who's got your back and someone who's kind of there to
Mm.
support you. It's all about just feeling like you're not on your own, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so lovely. So I'm sort of curious to hear about some stories of people you've worked with, as would-be authors who've then gone on to publish a book. So can you give us sort of a maybe an instance of somebody who came to you that's really stuck in your mind because it was just such a good experience?
Wow, we've had loads. Been really
Mm.
some really good experience. I'll try and give you some different scenarios. I'll start with the young authors first. She's 12, 11 or 12 now, but she came to us when she was 7. She had 5 different manuscripts.
Wow.
One of the books, one of the stories was called My Afro, a book that she wrote after she was a boy sort of mean comment about her hair, her being the only child in the class with an afro. So she
Mm.
wanted to write a book to celebrate differences, but also for young black girls to feel proud of her hair. So her name's Tiana.
Mhm.
And somebody found me on Twitter, a journalist found me on Twitter and said, I love the work that you're doing with authors. Can I interview you and some of your authors? So obviously I chose her at the time, and her story just blew up. And I was getting phone calls from I was still teaching at the time. I think I was supply teaching. I was getting phone calls from BBC, ITV, Channel 5, asking to interview her. She was on all three. She ended up being on Good Morning America, the Kelly Clarkson show, everywhere. And it was brilliant because I remember Googling her name to see where the interview went, not knowing how far it was going to go,
Yeah.
to show the young people I was working with, and then just seeing all these interviews, I was like, oh my gosh! So that was ridiculous. Seeing her growth and also her confidence boost in her message was phenomenal. Sarah Keto is another one. She's 13. Um, she's an absolutely incredible young person. She donates all of her profits to charity, helping homeless people living in Croydon. We both live in Croydon,
Yeah.
and also refurbishing a school library in Ghana. So she's used
Wow.
towards that. We support her as well in her endeavors. She's just a phenomenal young person. So that's Sarah Keto, look out for her. Um,
How do you spell the last name?
Kittoe says.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And then we have, gosh, who should I talk about now? We've had his name's John Cheetham. Oh, it's a brilliant, fantastic character. He's in his age, about 86 now. He is been in 5 different singing bands. We call him the grandfather of doo-wop. So he founded the, music genre doo-wop from Brooklyn. Absolutely fantastic, full of energy, full of life, still touring. So we published his book, Keeping Doo-Wop Alive, and that's exactly what he's doing, keeping doo-wop alive. Brilliant interview. He sang through his interview as well. Yeah, lots. We've had lots of brilliant clients. It's hard to sort of pinpoint even a handful because there's so many of them are just brilliant.
Amazing. And what sort of is interesting is that it can sometimes, the book itself can take a message that resonates with so many people that it becomes simply a doorway, doesn't it, to bigger things. So these young writers in particular, once they've actually written a book, is that I'm curious to know how they manage the sudden, like for example, is it Tatiana who's
Tiano Echo Ari.
yes, and for her to suddenly go from, being a, young schoolgirl to suddenly becoming a celebrity, to what extent do you have to get involved in that, or is it the parents' responsibility to make sure that she doesn't get overwhelmed?
Yeah, I'd say the parents in that sense. Yes, I do the mentoring, but all the interviews are with their parents. So Tiana, I don't think she would see herself as a celebrity, but yeah, I can imagine, everybody coming in. You had the BBC, ITV, and Channel 5, I think, all in one day with the camera crew and interviewing the kids and everything. But she's taken it in her stride. Sarah Keto, again, really grounded parents. She's very humble. When I interviewed her last, I did ask her a similar question. She said,
Mm.
you know, I don't see myself as any different to any of the other children. I don't treat her any differently, and she's very humble
Mm.
in what she does. So I think it's important. It takes a village to raise a child. So
Yeah.
that, that's myself as a book journeyman. So that's the parents, that's the surrounding family, that's the community, the churches they go to, the friends they have, the extended family, all responsible for, raising children who are grounded in that way, I think.
And I think it's so important to make people know that it doesn't matter how old you are or what, if you have something to say, that there is a platform for you to say that. And I particularly love your such a deeply personal approach to, you haven't sort of outsourced that bit of the initial mentoring to
Yeah.
somebody else. You're still getting involved in that. I love that. With AI and with a number of other things coming in, that has made maybe say for example, people now just publishing books without actually having written a word of it themselves.
Right.
So how do people who actually really love writing and want to write, how are you helping them to to deal with that? I mean, do you see it as a challenge, or is it something that, it's just one of those things that we don't need to worry about?
People are going to do what they're going to do. Personally, we don't accept any submissions that have been that are just AI. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is to help people to find their voice,
Yes.
and to let their voice shine and be heard. Nothing wrong with using AI for some of the, even creating book covers to an extent or copy, um, things like that. But writing a book it should be a deeply personal thing, and it should come from you. No one can take away your voice, your story, your
Yeah.
essence, and that is really what Conscious Dreams is about.
And anything else you kind of would give as, guidance to somebody who may be looking to write, or maybe is not sure whether they're ready for it, and what are the kind of the top tips for someone who wants to become an author but is maybe terrified by the whole process
Mhm.
of it?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would always go back to like what your why is. Why do you want to become an author? What is that passion?
Yeah,
Why is it important for you to write a book? For me, I just it's such a great way of expression. Um, I love writing. It's a passion of mine. Some people want to be an author or they want to publish a book because they really have something deep inside that they want to share. So maybe they're not a writer or an author in that way. And we have worked with people who aren't particularly their skill isn't necessarily writing, or they're not particularly interested in being a writer, but they've got something really important to say.
yeah,
So find that's the first one, to find out what your why is, but then second one is find a team, find people who can help you, find professional people. Like I say, we've got a team of professional editors, typesetters, designers, mentors, everything you can imagine to create, publish and distribute your book.
yeah,
Find an editor who can really help you, or a mentor who can really help you to find your voice and to structure your work, and to write that book. You don't have to do it by yourself. Um, Three, I would say just know what your message is. A lot of people make the mistake of just wanting to write a book just to write a book, but they don't really have a clear message. And when I ask them, they're like, "Oh, I don't know. What's my message? I'm not sure. What do I want to say?" So if you don't know what you want to say, how's that really going to really connect with you? Because everything's about connection. You want to connect with that reader.
yeah,
Four, I guess, is know your audience. I speak to people all the time and I ask them, who's your book for? And they say it's for anyone. It's like, well, it's not to say anyone can't read it, but if you're saying anyone, you're doing like your core audience a real huge disservice, because you want to know where you can find your audience. You want to know if your book was in Waterstones, I want to know where I can find it. Where is it going to be shelved under? Because things are categorized. Is it
yes,
YA? Is it, non-fiction? Who's your audience? What events do they go to? Where can you how can you get yourself in front of them? And if you haven't done that market research, your book will literally it's just going to get lost
yes,
on a digital shelf somewhere. Fifth one, editing is a huge thing. I think it's one of the key things. Design, I mean, every aspect of the publishing process is important, but you can have a great story, and if it's not edited correctly, you only get one chance to get that across.
yes,
So just don't scrimp. Like, so many people want to budget, and you can budget, but if you can have a really bad book, I'd
yeah,
rather spend money and have something that I can be proud of,
yeah,
and to actually make more sales than if I just published a book that, and people aren't going to trust me again if I've got a book that's badly edited. So, you know, believe in yourself, know your why, know your message, um, don't scrimp on editing, find experts. And another one, I guess, is to think about the bigger vision. Don't just think about the book, think about the life after that book, because the life after that book is so important. It's like having a baby. You don't just leave it there. Hopefully, you've got to feed it, you've got to get it out there. The book I'm talking about, you've got
yeah.
to promote it, you've got to get it to the right people. So think about how you're going to do that, and how you're going to best serve all that time and effort that you've put into something that hopefully you love doing.
And that bit is the hardest bit, isn't it? Because I've talked to many, many people who are authors, and everyone, loves writing, and that's why they become an author. But they don't love the self-promotion. They don't love having to go and
Yeah.
talk about their book, and particularly when you self-publish, really, you have to do it all yourself.
I absolutely have to. Even if you're traditionally published, I've got friends who've been like like big traditional companies. They still say that yes, they do a level of marketing, but the marketing is down to them to do. And even with these big companies, traditional companies, there's only a certain window of their marketing campaign.
Yes,
You are always the best promoter for your work.
yes. That's good to remember that, just because you're self-published doesn't mean that even if you were published by a big, they would probably provide you the platforms though to go and speak about your book. Is that not true? If they were a big,
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously they like HarperCollins, let's say, for example, they're going to have deals with the big bookstores like Waterstones. So getting the books into Waterstones, that's obviously going to be much easier than if you're, you know, a self-published author, an independent author going in there to have your books stocked. They're going to take, one or two, lucky if you're lucky.
yeah,
Um, So yeah, they have the connections, they have a bigger platform, of course they do. But as a traditional publisher, whether you're a traditionally published author or self-published author, you still need to promote and market your book. If you don't have a social media presence, or you're not doing school talks or events, or you're connecting with people, you're going to sell less books than somebody who is. It's just how it is, unfortunately. Think
Yeah.
about how many authors there are in the world, like traditionally published. Take away self-published people. How many authors are there in the world? How much promotion and marketing can all of these publishing companies do?
Yes. And just a maybe statistic that you might know about, how many on average a published author, how many books do they actually sell?
So they say, according to statistics, self-published authors sell on average 250 books a year in a lifetime,
In a
which is
lifetime.
not true because so many are authors. I mean, that is the statistic out there, but so many of our authors have sold so many more. I know that Tiana sold about 1,500. Obviously, that press coverage and visibility did help a
Yeah.
lot. I've
Yeah.
sold a lot more than 250. We've had another author sell about 350 before her book was even out. And that was through, social media campaigns. So
Yeah.
again, there is so much you can do to change those figures by
Yeah.
just being proactive, visible, and passionate about getting your work out there. And it's not about saying, hey, look at me. It's about saying, I've got something to say. I need to find my reader. And I've got something to share. I've got something of worth and value to share. And if you really believe you've got something of worth and value to share, it's not about you. It becomes about getting that book into the right hands, but also honoring your story and your message, and honoring the people who have helped you to create that. And also you want to get your money back. You want to be able to make some money from it as well, don't you?
Absolutely. I love that. And I think the average means that obviously there are some that are much worse and there are many who are better. And I also think that self-published, there's an image around self-published that, it's had no professional input at all. And there are some people who will do that. They'll literally just upload it on Amazon KDP or
Yeah.
so what you're talking about is kind of actually is had a lot more love and attention given to it. So it should by all means be performing much better than someone who's just done no editing and just put it on there. So I'm conscious of time and I know you've got so much going on, Danny. Before we finish, I want to ask you what is your dream for your business? It's called Conscious Dreams Publishing. Do you have a vision for where it's going to be, say, in 5 years' time?
I think the bigger vision is I'd like to do more mentoring, so group mentoring, helping people to understand the process more for themselves. There's only so many, books that we can publish in a year. Um, and there are more authors than we're able to. So showing people how they can have a professionally published book and do it themselves.
Yeah.
So more mentoring, more workshops. I love doing in-person workshops, writing retreats. Oh, wouldn't that be great? A writing retreat in St. Lucia or Tanzania, that would be fantastic.
That sounds beautiful. And from your own personal life point of view, what I always ask the question, everyone has their own kind of definition or maybe idea of what a fulfilled life looks like for them. What does your fulfilled life look like?
I think a fulfilled life is um, living your passion, living in purpose, having purpose in your life, um, but also enjoying the mundane, enjoying the little things, the small
Mm.
things that people miss, the little interactions, the conversation with somebody at a bus stop, or I don't know, the pigeon on your windowsill. What everybody in the world really is looking for is to be loved, to be seen, to be heard, to know what it is to love and to be loved. And I think since my book, Mr. Wrong, it's taken a while. Probably the thing I am most proud of is that level on my personal life is fulfillment, happiness, um, and just living every day with love.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So if anyone who's listened to this is now thinking, oh, I need to talk to Daniela about my book, what's the best way for them to contact you?
You can contact me via my website, www.consciousdreamspublishing.com. I'm offering free 20-minute consultations. You can book that through the website. You can find me on most social media under Conscious Dreams Publishing as well.
That's brilliant. And we'll put those links in the description for the show notes. And yeah, thank you. I mean, is there any sort of last word of advice you want to give your listeners or would-be authors, or even authors who've already got a book and they're thinking, oh, I wish I could sell more of these. What advice would you give them?
Advice I would give to authors who are maybe feeling a bit disheartened at the moment is to just believe in yourself and believe in your message. Um, do something different, be bold. A lot of chances and opportunities are missed because people have been too scared to do it.
Mm,
I personally love doing things that are really out of the box, or where people might think, who does she think she is doing that? Because it just makes me laugh. So just approach it with joy. Don't say, right, I'm not gonna contact that media agency, or I'm not gonna contact whatever, or I'm not going to speak at this event because who am I to do it, or I'm not going to put myself forward for it. Just try, otherwise you're not going to know. And if something isn't working with your writing or isn't working with the book that you've published, be open to change, be open to looking at something in a different way. Again, find a professional, find a mentor, find someone who can help you, and take on feedback constructively, because constructive feedback can be the very difference that you need.
so agree. Thank you so much, Danny. It's been great talking to you.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you all the best. And yeah, look forward to sort of your next book. When's it gonna come out? Are you gonna put it out there?
Well, I'm going to listen to this interview, take my own advice, and I'm going to carve out some time. I've got to finish off some books here, but yeah, I'm gonna. But December will be my time to put my head down and get back to my writing.
Amazing. Well, all the best, and thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.